guys, welcome back. This is the 10th installment of who knows how many in the Q&A series that I'm doing for you, and I'm just chugging along. These are all one take in 10 minutes, and so let's get as many questions answered as possible. Brennan Leong says, what is your thoughts on diet for a raw drug-free powerlifter? Do you feel it's more important to stay lean or just to gain weight and strength? I talked about my personal nutrition in the last one of these that I did, and how strange it may seem to some people, and how I'm constantly trying to figure it out myself and improve it. And I'm sure that there's other people who are much more qualified to speak on this topic. I don't claim to be an expert in any sense of the word, but I think there's a time for both. I think there's a time to find out where you are in your weight class. I think it's important, if you're trying to be competitive, at least, that you need to find out what, consider your bone structure, consider your actual height versus where your weight is, your lean body mass and all that, and try to fit in the weight class that you would be the most competitive in. But I think for the most part, if you're doing it for other reasons, if you're doing it just to stay healthy or to pursue goals in that, just do whatever makes you happy. If you want to stay a little leaner, I think that's totally fine and valid and within your rights. I mean, I hope you're not just trying to become a big fat powerlifter so you can lift more weight. That was the trend when gear was really prominent, and I think the raw movement has kind of strayed away with that, and guys like Jesse Norris and Dan Green have really encouraged people who have a lean built physique for the powerlifter, and I think it's been a big movement in a healthier direction. But if you want to gain weight and get big and be strong, I see no problems with that. I don't think that's a bad thing in any sense of the word. I personally have just kind of gone with the flow. I don't like cutting for meats really. I'm not super lean, I know that. People remind me that plenty. You just kind of have to find what you want to do and what you want to pursue. If you want to take the most advantage of a lower weight class by being really lean for it, you just know that you're going to sacrifice a little bit of energy, because you're likely going to be at less of a caloric surplus. It's not necessarily that fat helps you lift more weight, but having more water in your system or being in an overfed state as opposed to an underfed one will generally improve your performance. Those are just things that you have to consider. I don't see there being a real positive or negative to either one of those ends. I think that to be really the best at it, or in your weight class, or to succeed at a higher level, you kind of have to be at the top of the weight class with a higher muscle mass ratio to be able to really compete, and generally maybe shorter in some of the smaller weight classes, because if you're a tall lanky guy, and it doesn't matter how much your skeleton's going to weigh more. But those are technicalities, and they don't really answer the question any better. It's just personal preference, I think. Leo Tuvesson, how would you define major form breakdown on squats? I'm following a linear program. I've started to fall forward and lose the heel contact and push forward from the front and middle of my foot in some reps. Should I reset or keep going? Reset. I would say if you are falling forward consistently with every single one, there's something going wrong. If your heels are ever coming off the ground in the squat, you need to address that immediately, because it's going to put a lot of pressure on your low back. It's going to put a lot of pressure on your knees, and you're not building the proper motor pattern at that point. Pull back a little bit on the weight. Make sure that you're doing it, close to consistently. You don't have to have a perfect squat to add weight to your squat, but it should always be the focus is to improve. You shouldn't be adding weight and trying to progress farther when you haven't gotten things at least at the point where it's safe to continue, and that's my opinion on that. John Tagg, I know you had a bad experience in the past with IPF. It was the USAPL, but do you think that it would be fair if you base your opinion on the whole federation on that meet alone, and is all the recent changes you've been making to your lifts to maybe compete in the IPF? Would love to see you at Worlds next year. Peace be with you. Thank you, John. I've mentioned it now, I think, in 2 videos, that I do at some point intend to lift in USAPL, hopefully to find some sort of IPF berth and compete, but not because it's the IPF, just because it's something different, and it would be a challenge for me personally to do that. And I've been making some changes to my technique. Hopefully by the time this video is out, they will be more solidified, and people will be like, what changes? And I'm like, well, switching to the flat-footed or the deeper squats and the more legitimacy in the lifts for my own standards, not because of some arbitrary standard that someone else picked, but me wanting to do them better by my scale of improvement. And it won't, I don't think it'll be next year. Honestly, financially and monetarily, it's not really an option, but I do think that I am over the bad experience I had with USAPL. I don't know if the other individuals involved are all over it themselves, but that's their prerogative. I would enjoy if I had some more financial freedom and security moving around a little bit and trying some other states, because for the most part, everyone who I've talked to from the USAPL who is a friend has had very different experiences to share with their particular neck of the woods, and so I might be interested in doing some of that. And it's not like I don't like the people in my state. It's not like that. I did have a bad experience, but the problem is the people that was involved in that experience are the same people who, if I went to something else here, there would be an opportunity for possibly some bad blood and feelings to be circulating, and I don't want to tempt them in that situation and make a potentially awkward situation with anything, and I don't want there to be a negative reflection on their federation or anything. I just think it would be healthier right now for me to stick to my plans and do what I'm doing, and then in the future look to pursue that in a different way. Emmanuel J, middle initial. For an early advanced lifter training 4 days a week with an upper-lower split, would you recommend to incorporate technical work for a given lift, e.g. bottom-up squats, floor presses, pause deadlift, on the day the lift is trained, or one of the other days to increase the frequency that the lift is trained? Either way, which volume workload would you recommend for technical work? I think that your technical, if you're talking about technique work, which it doesn't sound like you're referring to, but I'll address that too. For technique work, all volume and all intensity protocols should be technical work. You should always be pursuing the most perfect form of the lift that you are capable of. You should never throw your technique aside. I think that that's something that gets you hurt. The reason you're trying to lift it a certain way is to lift the most weight possible, to lift it safely, and to lift it within the rules of whatever federation you're lifting in. And so I think as far as technique is concerned, that's always something you're doing no matter what the workload should be. If you're talking about something like a supplemental lift, like if you're doing work that isn't necessarily the competition lift but is addressing a weak point in that, like the examples you gave, I think that it could be either. I have one supplemental lift with each of my primary lifts in the given day, and then I have another day where they are separated themselves, and I don't do the competition lift in its competitive way on that other day. So I think it's definitely possible to mix and match those. It depends on the person, and I would honestly just suggest if you have the opportunity to increase your frequency because you're slowing, then go ahead and increase your frequency. If you're still finding good progress and results with what you're doing, then stick with that for now, so you have somewhere to go when your progress starts to slow. That is my opinion. Corneliu Morandini Hi man, do you have any idea why my shoulders hurt more on the bench press when I'm doing standard grip versus a false grip? Is it a technique flaw? For sure. It is a technique flaw for sure, but maybe you could give an idea of the root of this and could give some tips. Thank you. Since I'm not an exercise scientist or an exercise physiology major or anything, I can't give you a really, I can't consider myself an expert in this. To me, there may be something with the amount of rotation in the shoulder. If your thumb is around here, it's a little bit harder to twist this way, where you could achieve a more exaggerated breaking of the bar, I guess, position, or that internal rotation position for the shoulder joint. And if that's something that, that's when you're doing that, you're locking the shoulder in to protect it. And so if you're doing this and you're having a harder time getting in that position, I'm assuming, since I've never seen your technique, that maybe you tend to flare more when your thumbs are on the bar, and maybe you're able to keep a more protected shoulder position with that elbow more neutral and less out. But that's really just me guessing and not knowing one way or the other. So sorry I can't be of more help on that particular question, but I wish you the best and hope that you figure it out and continue to improve and work pain-free. So thank you guys. That's my 10-minute time for this video. I think we made a little bit more progress on that one, but we've got a long way to go, and it is getting pretty late, so I'm just going to keep rolling. Thank you guys again. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave a like, rating, share with your friends, comment, subscribe, good stuff, all that. I will talk to you soon. Bye.